Welcome to the art and science of difficult conversations. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lucie, and we love having difficult conversations.
That's right. And each week we'll either share a tip, hear how others have gotten better at difficult conversations, or demonstrate common difficult conversations and what to do and what not to do.
Let's get into it.
What a rare treat for everybody. We rarely are here together just talking, you and me, Lucie. So, hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You know, the hard part is, or the nice thing about we're living in the future, we've never met in person. And we live on opposite coasts, but we've been able to collaborate on this cool journey together and do this. And I think that's cool. I think that's cool that we're able to do this and we've never even met in person.
It is pretty cool. And it started very randomly, basically, even our collaboration. And it was so easy and just natural. I'm still in awe how it happened. And that we basically are finishing the season 1 of our podcast.
I know. It's wild. And I'm so thankful that you reached out to me. I'm so thankful that we worked well together and we were able to push this forward because a year before you reached out, I actually was trying to get a podcast going and I had recorded a bunch, but I just never moved it forward or moved it past the finish line. So I was really thankful that you came along and we kind of evolved it and made it even better than my original thought. And so I think it was awesome that you came on board.
Thank you. And same here. I'm really grateful. If it were for you, I don't think I would be launching podcasts, especially because I was moving twice. And there were a lot of things happening at that time. But really kudos to you for keeping us structured and keeping us moving forward, and being very understanding, empathetic. I never felt pressured. And so I'm still in awe how it was possible to make it happen with all the things happening in my life and launching the podcast. And us actually celebrating 2,000 downloads plus on YouTube, additional almost 2,000. That's fantastic.
I know. I wish I had sound effects to put that applause in there.
Wait. Where? I'm looking. Oh, here. I have the sound effect of now winning bell with the clients. So I'm ringing the bell for us here, and for all of our listeners. Thank you for tuning in and for giving it a chance and learning with us.
Yeah, I never pressured you because it was always moving forward more than I was by myself. So I was like, we're making so much progress. Like I'm not too worried about it because we're still making progress. We're going forward. We're releasing things. So like, who cares? We're
Awesome.
we're doing it.
I really enjoy working with you. I think my own inner critic is pushing me way harder. It's just like, Chris is so awesome. He's not pushing me at all.
Oh, we got to do some coaching around that then. That inner critic.
Oh, yeah.
As we are wrapping up our first season, what are your thoughts? How do you think this first season went? What are your overall thoughts?
It turned into a really fun project. Considering I actually reached out originally to you because one of my clients had a request. Lucie, do you have any role plays on difficult conversations? I need to talk with my employee and I would love to hear some role plays. And I searched online and I couldn't find anything that would be something that I would like to share with a client. And you had webinar at the time, I remember, on difficult conversation, and I joined. I'm like, yeah, I really like this guy, how he talks. I like his style. I like his calmness. So I think I connected with you on LinkedIn, and you asked what I liked about the webinar, and so I shared with you, and I asked you if you have any roleplay videos. You just said no, and I asked you if you would be willing to record a few with me. And so what started, and then you brought the idea of actually launching a podcast. I said, yeah, we already recorded several episodes. That was surprising how naturally that evolved. I've tried different podcasts with at least 3 other people, and it kind of fizzled out. So as it was fizzling out, you came along, and so that space was created actually.
Yeah.
And it felt very natural and easy. And overall, I also like that we incorporated interviews
Mm,
into our podcast because I love doing interviews. I love hearing other people's stories and perspectives, and as well as the strategy episodes. So I feel we found a nice blend of the role plays, of adding a little bit strategy, an explanation on the techniques or things to say, not to say, as well as really hearing the stories. So I love the style. I'm again very thankful for you keeping us organized and structured. Big kudos to you.
mm. Yeah, I appreciate that.
And I think it's also growing me for sure in my speaking skills, but in different areas, just thinking about different conversations from different angles. And the role play has been both challenging and rewarding. We can talk more
Mm.
about it a little bit later. What about you? What are some of your impressions?
Um,
How was the experience for you?
yeah, I mean, I'd love well, how about we just spend the rest of the time of you saying nice things about me? I think that's really nice. It's really great. No, it's I do appreciate that you reached out at when you reached out originally. Nobody knows this because it was just between you and me. But originally we had said let's do these role plays and we can find a way to monetize it. And then we started doing it some more and we started recording. And we're like, you know what? It's number one, it's too complicated for us to figure out how to like sell it and figure that out. But really, also, there's a good opportunity to just give this information and provide it. And I agree. Like I wanted to do a podcast. It was free anyway. I love the idea of podcasts, and I love how it naturally evolved into a project where we could provide good help for people struggling with this stuff. And it is just a good way for us to collaborate and talk about things we do well together. And I think it's natural because we have a similar viewpoint or mindset on how to approach difficult conversations. It's really about the emotional and mental aspect of it. How do we stay calm? How do we care about the other person, create that psychologically safe space for them? And I think that's what makes it a good common approach, a collaborative approach. So even in the role plays, we never discuss ahead of time how we're going to do the role play. We just discuss this is a scenario. Good luck. Let's figure it out. Let's do it. And I think because we have a very similar approach to it, it makes it easy for us to navigate through it and facilitate it and solve the problem in a way. So I think that's very natural, and I love that. And again, I also love the interviews. It's great. I love you've brought such cool people onto this
Same here.
podcast to be interviewed. I think they've been such cool people to hear their wisdom and their expertise, and so I've learned a lot just listening to them. Your one of your recent interviews with the relationship coach, you said, and she said lots of cool things. Like they were really cool, like sound bites, and I learned a lot. But you said something. The quote was, "Assumptions are the termites of a relationship." I was like, "Oh man, I gotta like brand that somewhere." That's like perfect. But yeah, overall, I love the
Thank you.
collaboration, and I love just where we've been able to take it. I love that we've been able to get it out there and talk about timely topics that people cared about, and like there's people have given feedback on the a strategy episode or role play was very useful because like it was like at the right time for them, and so that's heartening to hear. That's for me. That's like, oh, that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to help people do stuff better.
Exactly. I was moved yesterday. I had a session with a client, and half of the session she was talking about how she was validating and really thinking it through. And it was right after the episode on validation actually went live. So that felt fulfilling, that our work makes a difference and makes people think about how they can make their conversations, be it in their personal life or professional life, better.
Yeah. Were there any favorite moments for you, whether it's just favorite moment between us or favorite moments with the interviews or memorable role play moments or role plays in general that stand out to you?
Thank you. That's a good question. I would say the favorite moments, if you mentioned the interview, I would say because it was the most recent interview I've done. It's fresh in my memory, and it's been with Tahi, and she's been also my friend. So we laughed a lot during the interview. I think that was the
Hmm.
interview that I
Yeah.
laughed the most, even before. as we are preparing. We wished we recorded actually because I think that would be hilarious to play how we are preparing. Oh, let me I need to blow my nose. Wait a minute, don't record yet. And so that was really, really sweet. Also to hear her perspective and her learnings and wisdom. I really enjoyed that. From our role plays, as I was reflecting on the role plays, I would say sometimes they're quite challenging for me. So that would be more about the challenging piece. And the favorite one, I think the easiest one that I felt, yes, I could relate to the persona that I'm in a way playing or role playing. That was the one when I was playing a messy person.
Mm,
Because I am quite creative, and sometimes this is my struggle to keep myself organized in my environment. So I have this times when I'm very organized, everything is nice and clean, and then time something happens, I get behind, and then I'm
mm.
quite disorganized. So our conversation of, you wanted things tidy, and me, sometimes it's really difficult to do so. Felt, I think, out of all the role plays, felt the most natural to me. The topic.
Most natural, yeah.
Or I could really resonate with that perspective. What about you? What were your favorite moments or highlights from role plays interviews?
I love that first role play we did, which was the first one we released, which was the family at the
Oh, yeah.
holiday dinner. I think that was a cool scenario, and I think we handled it well-ish. Hopefully we gave people ideas of how to handle it. But I think that was a cool one because it's such a timely one, but also it's one that, especially because of the political atmosphere here
Oh,
in the
yes.
US, it's
Hmm.
so common that people are having those conversations. And
True.
obviously we ended up on a tidier note, right? Because we're showing how to handle it. But I think for a lot of people, there's no really good resolution, right? Because nobody's gonna really change their mind necessarily about
True.
these like intense things.
Hmm.
And it's not about changing people's minds. We keep talking about that idea. It's not about how do you change somebody's mind. Although we could probably role play that. How do you do that? But it's really more about how do you maintain a positive work relationship with somebody, right? Because that's at the heart of it. That's all we're talking about with these difficult conversations is how do you have a decent relationship with people around you and create that deeper relationship, even if you do end up disagreeing on certain things. And sometimes you do have to set a boundary, right? If they're like absolutely opposed to you having your basic human rights, then maybe that is like a boundary you need to hold. And at the same time, you can still have that conversation in a way that's not just yelling or screaming or shutting
Absolutely.
somebody down, right?
I think that episode was really cool. I felt that this topic and these dynamics are really important for all of us to practice and to be
Mm,
aware of, because I see if all of us had the skills how to navigate these conversations in a peaceful manner, I think the world would look way differently than it looks now,
mm,
both on private level in our families, in the workplaces, as well as maybe on the international levels.
yeah.
So I really feel this is really important conversation and practice to have. At the same time, it was also the one that was challenging for me because I was on a different spectrum. I was
Mm,
really having to embody somebody that I'm usually not.
mm.
So that was also mental fitness practice for me, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. I get that. And you know what? One of the first, before you came on board, Tiffany, the one of the first interviews we released here, she was one of the first people I actually interviewed as like my original podcast project. And I remember as soon as I finished the interview with her, like she was great. She had lots of great info and she's a very nice person. And I love talking to her. And I remember when I finished recording that the first time, I was like, I have something here. This is like really cool to hear people's stories. Her story, and then Heidi, which is another one of the first ones we released. The two of them hearing their stories. And I was like, when I first recorded them a couple of years ago, I was like, I've got something here. This is something that'll be interesting. I think it's cool to hear their stories. And I follow other podcasts about difficult conversations and negotiation. And I love those too. And I love them and I follow them because they're great. And like this is something I hadn't heard before in people's stories or people's experiences of this type of stuff. So I was like excited. And so I'm glad that we were able to do this and like start developing and start moving this along. And yeah, I love that we're at 2,000 downloads, which I have no reference whether it's good or bad, but it's more than my network, so it's great. And I feel really validated when random people would start, not random people, but people would start giving feedback on different episodes. Like, oh, you're listening to this episode. That's great. It's not just disappearing into the ether somewhere. And then when random people start asking to be on our podcast, people that we don't know personally, to me, that's like a good sign of like, okay, this podcast is starting to grow. There's something that's resonating with people. It's not just you and me talking to each other on Zoom and then nobody else caring about it, but people are wanting to be part of this experience as well. And so to me, for me, that's like a good milestone of like, okay, there's something here. There's some concept that's worthy here and valuable here. We can continue growing this.
Yeah, I'm hearing two things. Basically, one that resonates with me, what you shared, is really the power of the stories.
Mm,
And even oftentimes when the clients share with me, they feel, am I the only one dealing with this? And
mm,
I feel really sharing the stories, no matter who we are, no matter what position we have, really hearing that all of us in a way struggle with this can hopefully have people feel less alone and can give people also hope. You
mm,
know what? All of us struggle with this. It's part of being a human. And the good news is it's a skill that all of us can also develop and learn and improve in.
yeah.
So I believe that gives like a message of hopefully hope and
Hmm.
empowerment. And now I'm thinking about the second thing that you've mentioned that escaped me.
The
Maybe I
people
mumbled.
reaching out to be on our
Oh
podcast.
yes, thank you. That was another thing surprising. I believe just this week you've sent me like 3 emails, Lucy, and another one and another one. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
this is really happening. People are reaching out without even me still being able to do much marketing, but people are actually already seeing us and want to be guests. So that's wonderful to know, and it's really validating, and it's energizing me because
Mm,
when I see that actually what we are doing is making a positive difference for somebody, is helping somebody to pause or even take the time to respond, even if their comment is very emotional,
hmm.
it still shows that they actually took the time to think about it. And
Hmm.
maybe they planted a seed of something, even when they don't agree right now. But I feel it as a positive sign, as it has an impact, a positive impact that we, of course, want,
Right.
and that gives me more energy to continue further. And then it gets me excited about talking about the season 2.
Mm. Yeah, and I think like one of the new people that we interviewed was Laura Conley, that health and diet
Yes.
coach
Mhm.
and body image coach, and you know, for me that brought in my mind. I hadn't even thought about that type of difficult conversation until she came on, but I think that brought in my viewpoint of like, oh, we can talk. There's like lots of different difficult conversations that people aren't having or they want to have. They don't know how to have it about body image. And one of the people that reached out to potentially guest on our podcast for next season, so they referenced that episode like, hey, I have a teenage daughter, so like that's a great, like it was great timely to hear about like how to think about that stuff. So because a lot of the difficult conversations and negotiation podcasts I listen to are about business, not necessarily personal life. And I think there are, like, I'm not gonna discount, I'm not gonna say we're the only ones doing it, but they're the only ones I listen to, and so it's not often that I see that combination of them.
And all of us have difficult conversations, especially with our
Mm,
family members. These could be the hardest conversations that we can
yeah,
have, or even setting boundaries with parents.
yeah, exactly. So, what about, were there any challenging moments for you? Like, in addition to sometimes role playing, like it's not it's not easy for us to always role play all these situations. Dear listener, if it's not easy for us to role play all these conversations, um, when I when you were the guilt tripping friend,
Oh yeah,
I was
I gave
seriously
you a
like,
hard time.
I was like, I don't know how to handle this. It's like I need to call an expert in. Who's an expert in dealing with this? Because I don't know how to handle this. But what were some challenging moments for you or lessons learned for you?
I think that episode was challenging for me as well because I was really trying to like embody, like feel into that person who would be doing that, and part of it, I was like, wow, this is really scary. I'm becoming this. So even after this finish, I had like the aftermath of like, wow, what this is some dark powers of Lucy here that I embodied.
You were a
I
natural.
There's apparently a lot of force there that even you felt it. So that was a trigger in another way of wow, wow. And so all of us are capable in a way of, it's like a tool, communication, right? It could be used for powers of good, or in that, well, there was the technique that used was for good, for all of us becoming more aware and knowing how to deal in those situations. But at the same time, I was myself taken back what was coming out of my mouth in a way when I
Mm,
was trying really to embody. So that was challenging, or just concept of myself in that.
mm,
It was another mental fitness for me, and also noticing my own reaction as I was sharing that and being that person, how I was feeling. I think that that helps me increase my self-awareness and my own emotional regulation, even these role plays, I would say. Any other challenging? I feel one of the challenging other factors was just hearing my voice sometimes. And I
mm,
noticed how I used some filler words at the beginning of the, so now I'm extra aware. I wonder, as I'm gonna be listening to this episode, how many filler words I used. But as I've mentioned before, my inner critic even goes after me for, what is the way I'm speaking, my accent, I mispronounce some words. Yet I'm not allowing it to stop me. We still record that, but I'm also observing my own, mental patterns from the past. The inner critic is coming up at some situations or
mm,
around, how many times I say actually. It
yeah,
was
yeah.
the favorite filler word. I didn't know I was using so much till I started really listening to the podcast. What about you?
We
What
all
was
do. Like nobody knows this because I'm the one that edited. Like when I edit a lot of my own episodes, and so I always edit out those filler words, and nobody hears the filler words that I say a lot. But I definitely say a lot too.
Yeah, I always say, oh, Chris speaks so naturally. He's so good at it.
No, I definitely cut out those filler words when I'm editing. I'm cutting all those out, so nobody knows what I'm doing.
I've tried to cut mine out too, but sometimes really difficult when I
Mm.
incorporate it so well into the speech. But what would you say were your challenges in the process?
I will say this, and I hope this is encouraging for the people listening. Every time we're about to role play, like the good way of doing it, like the bad way of doing it, I have no problem, right? Because we can just argue back and forth. But when we're about to role play the right way to do it or the a better way to do it, I always have a big thought of like, do I know how to handle the situation? I'm always thinking, wait, do I know how to solve this? Maybe I don't know how to solve this. I better figure this out. Like, hopefully nobody hears that I'm doing this completely wrong. And so, and I think that's common. I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like, how am I going to do this? And so I share that because I want people to know, like, hey, it's normal. Even in a role play, in a safe situation, I'm like, do I know how to solve this problem? Hopefully I do. And the only reason I'm able to ever focus is because I stop thinking about what I'm going to say and I just focus really on what are you saying? What are you thinking or feeling or what are you expressing? And then that gets me back into it. Like once I hear what you're feeling, I can get into it right away. But if I'm just focused on like what I'm going to be doing, then I just totally get too much in my head.
Makes sense. And that was amazing that you shared that. Thank you for sharing it, for your courage and vulnerability, actually. Because yes, that can happen to all of us. And the fact that you are kind of the expert in difficult
Mm,
conversations. And yet,
mm.
I would say could be it. So I have the inner critic. You might also have some inner critic, sounds like.
Yeah, I guess I shy away from ever calling myself an expert. I'm just a guy trying to
Mm,
get better at it, and I just love
yeah,
sharing the information with
I hear
others.
you. I also call myself a learner.
Yeah,
I keep learning. And
yeah,
and also it shares, for anybody who's listening to this, if they have that fear, it doesn't mean that they are not gonna do well.
mm,
And
right.
really that again builds the mental muscle. Oh, I'm right now in my head. Let me just focus on what's happening. Let me just focus on what the other person is feeling, thinking, saying.
Well, I guess I'm wondering, do you feel that way when you're like when we're on the other side and I'm the person that's being intentionally difficult in those role plays? Do you ever at the beginning think, do I know how to solve this when we're about to role play?
It's this is a good question. I think sometimes for me the feelings come first before the thought.
Mm,
So I could feel tense.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can feel the fear. Oh, and then I start thinking, then yes. But I would give big kudos to you because it does create, a safer space. I also know if it's completely disaster that we can re-record. So that
And we've never done that. I
we
think
actually haven't
that's
done
our
that.
story.
Yes.
We've never re-recorded.
We actually haven't. But I'm thinking also that it at least feels to me that it is possible I was in the roles of the difficult people way more. So I didn't have that much experience of how I'm gonna approach this conversation.
Mm,
I think mine was in the episode when I was trying to delegate and you were resisting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good observation. I need to be the more difficult
You need
person
to
more
be
often.
okay. So season 2, you will be the difficult person.
More often, yeah. Yeah, I think especially for the guilt tripping because
Oh,
I personally don't have a lot of guilt tripping friends, or I don't know. I guess I can't think of
I've
any of
had,
my friends that are like that, right?
yeah,
So I had like that's why I was hoping you could
I've
do it
had
because I was like
some
I have no
personal
way to,
experiences.
yeah, I have no one to pull from of like what
I
that
was
would be
channeling a
like.
lot of
Yeah, you were channeling your friends. Don't tell them. Don't
I'll
show
tell
them this
them.
episode.
I don't think any, I think it was more from the past rather than from my current
Fair.
environment. Yeah.
But because I don't have that experience, I was truly, as I mentioned earlier, I was like, how am I gonna manage this? What am I gonna do? And I hopefully this is something that people take away because what helps me not think about that is I just refocus on what I do best, which is or what I know best, which is let me just focus on what are you feeling and thinking in the moment? What are you really thinking and feeling that's underneath the surface? And ask questions because that buys me time. And I tell people that all the time. Like, if you don't know what to say, if you feel stuck, if your mind goes blank, just resort to asking questions and trying to figure out what are you thinking, feeling, needing, wanting. And then from there, I can go figure out what do I need to do to get to a point where we agree on something or solve a problem together.
It's interesting you say it. It makes me think and realize, yes, I had the initial fear. Then were the thoughts of what am I going to do? What if I don't do it well? And then there was the thought or the feeling of, well, I'm just going to be me, basically going into the empathy, really listening, being present with you, and then going from there.
Hmm.
So which is in a way same what you've described, your
Yeah.
process, being also present with the other person. And once we are present with the other person and really focus also on trying to understand, being open, then it naturally works without us practicing what we are going to say or what kind of
Mm-hmm.
phrases. Kind
Mm-hmm.
of naturally evolves from the state, from our in a way, being or kind of a setup, how we say, okay, I want to be present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes total sense. And so we keep talking about season 2. What are you hoping that we do or accomplish in the future as we kind of evolve this podcast?
Great question. I'm hoping to get more feedback from people.
Hmm.
So because that would allow me to know, are we on track? Are we adding value? Does this make sense to you? So I would also love more interaction from our listeners, from our viewers. What resonates, what doesn't resonate? Because then we can make it in a way that actually does add value. And that's our goal.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm. And we've talked a little bit about changing the episodes up, maybe making it a little bit longer and combining the strategy episodes with the role play episodes, which sounds like it could make sense. What would you be excited about in the season 2?
Winning the Powerball, I think that would be great if I just won the Powerball. I'm looking forward to it. Um, and hopefully we get to that point where I just win the Powerball. I think that'd be great just to win,
I see
600,
you
700
think about
million.
it a lot.
I do think about it
I
a
think you've
lot.
mentioned it before.
I think about it a lot. But yeah,
So may the
I
listeners, anyone could gift you a ticket.
I know, right? So yeah, the so for listeners, I think one of the things that Lucy and I talked about evolving was, you know, if you've been paying attention, we have a strategy episode and then a role play episode and then an interview episode. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to combine the strategy and the role play episodes so that yes, they're a little longer and it gives us opportunity to talk about a strategy, but then do it right away because we know that yes, the strategy episodes are shorter, so you can knock them out real quick if you're listening to them. But also, it doesn't give you a chance to see how it is in action. And so we're gonna start doing that more often. Start doing the strategy episode or talk together about what is a strategy, what is a specific thing we can do in hard conversations, and then we're gonna jump right into a real scenario. We'll continue sourcing those scenarios from real life, right? Because people have difficult conversations all the time, and we already have like a huge list that's beyond even what we could do in a season of different scenarios. But we're gonna do them and show them what does it look like to do validation in real time? What does it look like to ask a question in real time that's more open ended or more empathic?
I just remembered as you were sharing about the topic that you recently asked me if I would be comfortable role playing.
Which one was that one? We talk about a lot of different scenarios.
True. It was around a conversation between couple because you mentioned you're in your men's group and that the topic around intimacy comes up a
Oh
lot.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, comes up a lot.
And yeah, I actually had a client mentioning that's something that um, he's been struggling with in his marriage. How would he have that conversation because he doesn't want to hurt his wife's feelings? And so I
Mm,
mentioned, listen to our season 2. We might have a conversation around that.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the hard part about difficult conversations, and in this podcast or even our courses that we have is if somebody has a difficult conversation, they're not looking for an answer 6 months from now. They're like, I need to have this conversation tomorrow or next week. What am I going to do? And that's the unfortunate. There's no way for us to solve that problem, right? Unless we build like in the future we'll have this huge bank and then we can start sharing with people.
Exactly.
But I get it. It's hard because you have to lay off somebody next week. You're a
Mm.
boss and you got to lay somebody off. You don't want to take a 6 month course on how to have difficult
True.
conversations.
Yeah.
And I get that. And you get that, Lucy. We understand that. Um, Intimacy problem, right? If you're having intimacy problems with your spouse, right? Whether male or female or any other gender, right? You want to have that conversation sooner rather than later, but you also need to figure out how to do it. And so how do you have that conversation? And so I think that's why we like having specific questions or specific role plays, is because we know that people have these questions and these problems. And so the more we can do them, this by combining them, we have more role plays. And the more we can do those, the more we can show people and answer your question, hopefully in real time, as close to as real time as possible.
Absolutely. So if you have any specific challenge that you would love to get some feedback on, or some tips, or even hear a role play, please let us know. We'll be happy to take it on and add it to our list of ideas and role plays.
Yeah. And I think we're going to do more co-interviewing people,
Hmm.
or we hope to. We did that with Laura a little
Yes.
bit. That was the first time we were able to do it together, but we're hoping to do it more together.
Hmm.
I think it's helpful to get, but again, just like everything, right? It's helpful to get more points of view in a
Perspectives.
situation, perspectives, and
Yeah.
far be it from me to have only have my questions be the most important, right? It's how do we you might be hearing something that you want to explore, and let's explore that. And I think that's important also about people's stories is there's lots of different facets, and you know
True.
when you're listening you'll hear different things, and that's great to for us to explore all these different avenues that just one person won't be able to explore.
Yes, I'm actually excited about those interviews and even the experience of a group interview in a way. I
Yeah.
think it might take us some time to fine tune how we are going to do it online, fully online, because it's a little different than in person, but
Hmm.
I'm excited for it. And easily we can have longer episodes with that style.
Right. Right. And I think about that like if we were in person, multiple people having an interview and conversation is like super easy. It's super easy to flow and see who wants to talk next and read body cues. It's a lot harder online, and I think that's also a struggle everybody has, right? Like
Um,
group conversations are hard because you can't it's harder to tell who wants to talk next and give each other like subtle nods of okay, you're about to talk next. I'm going to sit back for a minute, or I've noticed you've been trying to talk for a little bit. Let me call you in if possible, right? So a lot of that is harder online.
so I wonder if that would categorize as a difficult, almost having difficult interview. But we
Yeah.
are open to that challenge, and I have no doubts we are gonna find a way to make it work.
Yeah, I'm always a big fan of just trying new things, seeing what
Me too.
happens.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of begging forgiveness rather than asking permission and just trying new things. And sometimes that
And
gets me into trouble.
me too. And I think that's another reason why we work so well together because both of us have this mindset. We're not afraid to try new things.
Yeah.
Um, and just go for it and have the courage even not to talk much about the role play, but just going with the flow. Just
Mhm.
sharing, okay, this is the scenario. Let's see what happens.
You know what I would love to see is I wonder if it'd be possible to ever have our guests do some of those role plays with us as well,
That would be a fun idea.
especially as we bring in more people that are
Hmm.
experts in different domains, right? Like we had that financial planner that was here, a financial advisor, and he was great. And I wonder if it would have been great to just hear him do that. Like, how does he have that conversation with other people around
Mhm.
estate planning, around like, hey, your parents are towards the end of life. We need to start thinking about this stuff.
Oh, I love that. Look at you, just came up with a new idea for us to try.
I don't think it's a new idea. I've seen it on
It's
other podcasts,
uh,
but it's new to us
new
for
idea
sure. We
for
haven't thought
us.
about it before.
No.
So I don't want to get credit for that idea. It's other people's ideas.
Very humble of you. Yeah, I let's try it. That could be a fun way of adding some another aspect from actually role play with somebody else.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
and I think we're about to take a break. If you're listening to us, if you listen this far into the episode, we've been talking for a while. We're gonna take a break for a little bit. We're still gonna release new stuff. We're gonna release some kind of compilations of stuff we've done, and we'll release some things we haven't released before over the month of July. But we'll be back in August with a new season. We'll hit the ground running. What are you looking forward to and taking a break for a little bit?
Yeah, going for vacation with my family, so I'm
Oh,
excited.
nice. Nice. Going vacation. Where are you going?
East Coast. My niece is coming from Europe and we'll be traveling for 2 weeks. We'll do a road trip. We'll go to Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Niagara Falls,
Ah,
anything in between, and then back to New York.
Boston.
Maybe
That
that
sounds
would
like
be
a
fun.
no.
That's it's right now. It's not on the list. Actually, my niece and her boyfriend they planned out everything,
Okay.
so it was
Well,
wonderful that I didn't have to plan
oh, hey, listen,
I'm
I'm
so
in
grateful.
Boston.
I could let's see what is going to happen. I can share with my niece, see if they can make it happen.
Well, I don't want to mess up her plans.
But that's true. Yeah, that would be fun. We could even record an episode.
A live episode in person. Wow, that'd be wild. I don't know what people would do. Yeah, I know, we record just on our places where we live, but I have access to a studio, so we can record it in a studio too.
Oh, Chris. Now you make me really think about that. Well, let's see what happens. I'm going in July, mid-July for 2 weeks, so I'll
Yeah.
keep you posted.
Yeah, and we could invite your niece and
Boston
her
is
boyfriend and really
drivable.
just dig
That
deep
would
into
be
difficult
fun.
conversations with them. Let's really dig deep into your relationship. Let's really see what
Some of the
skeletons are
family
in there.
stuff here. Publicly.
Let's make it public. Let's really dive deep into kind of what your relationship.
You really want to come visit again, right? With your crazy aunt.
Yeah, it'll be fun to have a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
But obviously we'll still be releasing stuff and the compilations, but and then we'll be back in August. But also we want to, for all the listeners, we want to do a little bit of a giveaway. We want to make sure that it's worth your while to keep listening, and also just to give an opportunity to share some of the stuff we also work on our own. So you want to share about your course first?
Sure. I was thinking when you said reward, it's in a way a reward for us also to hear from you, as it gives us the energy to continue to create, to share different topics, even if sometimes when it's difficult for us to do the role plays or the interviews. So we would really appreciate your feedback, any review, any comment that you would like to share. So we want to give something back. And the course, I'm certified as a positive intelligence coach. And so you can look at positiveintelligence.com. You could even take the saboteur assessment there. And I have access. I can actually provide the whole course, 6-week intense mental fitness training course. It may sound intense. It is intense in a way that actually you are not just learning theory, but you're actually doing practices to help you then with it. If you choose difficult conversations as your area of focus, you could choose relationships, you can choose well-being, choose increasing your performance. But let's say you choose, I want to stay calm in those difficult conversations. So during those 6 weeks, you will work on different areas. So then in those 6 weeks, in those 2 months, you can see and feel a difference, a shift in yourself, how you're showing up with other people, how you're showing up in stressful situations. And lots of clients had incredible shifts. Even some actually had, let's say, a manager in a company that used to get upset and stressed out and angry a lot. Some other people started saying, what's happening? You are not angry anymore. You are actually smiling. And so even that is possible. Of course, we work longer together, but in those 6 weeks, you can start feeling small shifts already, kind of like the building the mental fitness practice, just like in the physical fitness. The more you practice, the more you exercise, the more reps you do on a consistent basis, the more you can see and feel your body getting stronger. So the similar way is with the mental fitness practice. You do a set of exercises over the course of 6 weeks or longer, which will show the results in your ability, increased ability to pause before you respond and to choose a different way to respond or react. And so that course is, you will also get access to me, my basically 8 weeks of coaching with me in additional to the course. Would you want to share about your offer, Chris?
Yeah, I have a difficult conversations course. I don't talk about this very often on this podcast, although I should. I don't know why I don't, but I do have a difficult conversations course where we focus, you'll learn the skills to be more assertive in these hard conversations, whether it's professional or personal. And you'll learn how to reframe your mindset so you're confident and comfortable. You'll learn how to prepare. But most importantly, you'll learn how to actually move people through a conversation and create the framework for a conversation so people will feel safe and that you can feel confident knowing that you're facilitating a good dialogue between you and somebody else. And so it's really focused on giving you those specific concrete skills to have that conversation, even if you don't feel comfortable being assertive and sharing. And how do you be assertive without being aggressive? That's all the whole course is about. And so, um, Lucie, how much is your course with the coaching typically?
So it's basically $2,000 for the 8 weeks.
Yeah. And my course is $500, and mine is self-paced, but it includes 1 to 2. You can have a few sessions of one-to-one coaching with me. And I know that, Lucie, yours is self-paced and includes the coaching with you as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so what we want to do is, for the months of July and August, we are going to have a chance, a giveaway, essentially. So if you comment on any of our videos on YouTube or our episodes, or if you comment on any of our socials about the podcast, or if you leave us reviews on Apple, on Spotify, whatever, that's just how the world works. You give us reviews so that other people can find us. But if every time you leave us a comment or a review in the months of July or August, you're entered into a chance to win both of these courses for free. So we'll have one winner where you'll get both of these courses, or you can split it with somebody if you really want to split it. It's okay too. But essentially, you get it for free. So $2,500 value for free. All you got to do is leave a comment. Leave a comment on our YouTube, on our socials, on our anywhere just about this podcast, or leave us a review on Apple. So we do want to hear from you. We want to hear what's working, what's not working, what can we do to improve. We have our ideas, but if all of you say you want this other thing or you want us to stay the same, then we'll stay the same, right? We'll do what we got to do, but we want to hear from you. What will give you the most value from this podcast?
Yeah, and we'll celebrate and be grateful for any of your comments, be it positive or constructive, or even emotional on any scale of the emotions.
Yeah.
We'll use it as a gift. And we can ring even the bell. And on September 3rd this year, we'll also release who is going to be the winner. We might pick the winner actually live online, or we'll figure out how. But basically, we identify the date, September 3rd. We'll give you the answer.
Yeah. Lucie, it's been a pleasure working with you this first season, and I'm looking forward to even doing bigger and better things as we continue to grow.
Same here, Chris. I'm really grateful for this project, for you being an awesome co-host in this project. And I'm really excited for the season 2 and see what else.
Yeah, thank you.
I usually ask with question and with question before I say the final farewell. So my question for all of you who, if any of you are still listening or watching, kudos to you and thank you. And my question would be 2 questions. One, what are you taking away from our podcast season 1? What were your favorite parts? What were some parts that were not your favorite, maybe? Anything that you took away that improved your difficult conversations? So what is your key takeaway from this? And really want to appreciate you, all of you that are joining us, either on YouTube or anywhere else listening. I appreciate you for your desire to learn and to make your relationships better. The more of us, I think, the better off are all of us, including us. So thank you. Wishing you a great summer, and I'm excited to hear you then in August. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Peace.
everybody.